Hi, my name is Dawn. I've been asked to do a video on how I do my shells. There's several different ways to do them, but this is what I do that works best for me. We'll give you the materials that I use and step-by-step of how I decoupage seashell. There are a lot of different techniques and a lot of different ways to do this, but what I'm showing you is what I do and what works best for me. So I'm going to first start off with telling you the materials that you'll need to use. You'll need Mod Podge, chalk paint, any chalk paint will do, UV resin, some water in a spray bottle, some silver and gold paint, or you can choose to use these Let's Resin chrome markers. They're liquid mirror markers. They work great. You'll need a glue gun, brushes. I have a sander, a heat gun if you want to speed up drying process. I've got some plastic wrap, a lighter, I'll explain what that's for later, some gloves, nitrile gloves, some sort of embellishments if you like to embellish your shells, a UV light. I use a silicone mat at times, but you don't need to. And of course you need some type of shell. You can use an oyster shell, a scalloped shell. I also love using these little 3-inch Mexican flat shells and these Irish 4-inch to 5-inch Irish flat shells. Today I'm going to show you how to decoupage on a scallop shell. And of course you need your image. These are one of Penny's images. Go into her album section. She has some great images. But I'm choosing to use one of these flamingos today. So to get started, you're going to need to paint the inside of your shell white. Inside, I usually put 2 coats of chalk paint, white chalk paint. So to speed it up, I've already painted one. I didn't think you needed to see me paint white paint inside the shell. So you're going to get your shell. You're going to pick your shell. You're going to choose your image. Now, some of the images, you can't get complete coverage on the shell, but you can rip out the image. I like to rip it rather than cut it because you can blend the edges a lot better. So to rip the image, you just go along and rip around the image. You take as much off as you'd like. It gives you a ripped edge rather than a straight edge. And rip it until you can get your image to fit. You can use the shell this way or this way. So again, to speed the process up, I've already ripped out the image that I'm going to use, and I've decided that I want to put it into the shell this way. It just seems like it fits a lot better. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get some of my plastic wrap ready. This you use to get out some of the wrinkles. Now with rice paper, you will get some wrinkles. Sometimes you can't help it. You just do the best you can to get the wrinkles out. But a few wrinkles, no one's going to notice. So don't drive yourself crazy. So I'm going to take my white painted shell and I'm going to take my Mod Podge and I'm going to put a coat, paint a coat of Mod Podge on the shell. Be sure to get into the crevices and the indentations. Now, if you use napkins, you only need a thin layer of the Mod Podge. If you're using rice paper, it can stand a little bit thicker of a coat of Mod Podge. So you coat that all around. And again, I'm not doing a complete coverage. I'm just going to put the image where I want it to go. Okay, let me set this aside here. Okay, so now I have coated my shell with the Mod Podge. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the image into the shell. Okay. Actually, if you want, make it a little easier, you can give it a light coat of water. Light. If you spray too much water, it's not going to adhere. It's not going to stick. You lay down the image, and then I tap the metal down lightly. I go from inside out. And as you can see, there's some wrinkles happening. You can always, rice paper is very forgiving. You can always pull up on it and reposition it. You take your plastic wrap and go in and use that. What I do is I like to go from the inside. You have to make sure that it's pressed down, the air bubbles are out. I like to go from the inside out, and I also like to go down. I'd rather my wrinkles be down towards the bottom of the image if there's going to be any. But as you can see, and I wanted to do this in real time so that you can see that no matter how good your work is, it's never going to be perfect. And then you take the cling wrap and just inside out, inside out. Smooth it out as best as you can. Make sure to go in between those crevices and just rub out the wrinkles as best as you can. Like I said, the rice paper is very forgiving. If you were to do this much and this hard with a napkin, it's gonna rip. So here I am just making sure it's all down into those indentations of the shell. So that looks pretty good to me. You know, there are a few little wrinkles, but trust me, you're not really going to notice them. It's never going to be perfect. Then what I like to do is take a little bit more Mod Podge. Now, some people coat the whole image. I just kind of go around the edges of where the image is. You can go over the image. I don't really feel the need to. Just want to make sure those edges are securely down. Okay, and then you can re-rub out some of the wrinkles. And then you sit and let it dry. Now, I'm going to use my heat gun to speed up the process a bit, which you can do. Okay, when it's all dry, this is where I do my embellishing. You can embellish or not to embellish. I like to add a little bit of something. Sometimes I take I used to do diamond art, and I take the little gems from the diamond art and put it all over. And what I do is I use some Mod Podge to lay on those little gems. Otherwise, I use my glue gun, which I did not plug in. I use my glue gun. To get it in place, and then when I add the resin, I make sure I get the resin down into the embellishment so that it securely holds it. So while I'm waiting for that to heat up, what else can I tell you? Well, let's pick it up. I think I'm gonna go with here's the embellishment that I'm going to use on this shell. I get all my embellishments and my supplies from my local craft stores or off of Amazon. I don't use Temu because I'm too impatient and I don't like to wait for how long it takes to get my order. When I want it, I want it. So, now what I'm going to do is, well, it's not hot enough yet, so if anyone has any questions after seeing this video, you can always DM me. I will be happy to answer any questions that you have. And no question is ever stupid. I need a heat gun that heats up quicker. I'm sorry I didn't plug it in. Oh, while that's heating up. So this little sander, you can use a nail file, you can use sandpaper, some kind of sander. Sometimes when your image overlaps the shell, after you let it dry, then you go around with your sander and you sand the edges, and that will cause the napkin or paper that you're using to start to rip along the side. And you just do a downward motion, keep going, and then it makes it easy for you to just rip that excess paper off. What I like to do, if that's the case for me, I like to go back in around the edges of that paper and add some Mod Podge so that I'm sure that the edges are sealed down. Okay, here we go. It's a nice rainy day here in South Florida. Okay, so what I do is I add some hot glue just to add my embellishment, just to put it in its place. That alone is not going to keep it on there. If you're not using resin, you have to use something else that's going to keep it secure on there. The hot glue is not going to last. So now, what I do, you can also use some of this glitter Mod Podge. You can paint that over the whole top. It'll add some glitter to it. It all depends on what you like. So now that I've got my embellishments on, I'm ready for the next step, which is the resin. Now, if you don't like to use resin, you can use Duraclear, you can use triple thick. I used to use triple thick. The brush on has a beautiful shine, but I started with the UV resin and I absolutely love it. There's no mixing. I just pop the top on and use it. So that's what we're going to use today. So I've got my light, my UV light. I've got my gloves. I do wear a mask, but for the sake of this video, I'm not going to wear one so that you can hear me talking. But I'm going to put my gloves on. I always get my light ready. So I'm going to take my resin. Well, actually, I'll turn the light off because you can see. Okay. And what I do is I'm going to go first. I'm going to add some around the embellishment. And then I'm just going to add, not too much. You can always go back and add some more. And then I'm just going to take a gloved finger and I'm just going to spread the resin all through the shell. I'm going to turn my other light on. So I'm just going to spread the resin smooth. Don't overwork the resin. I also find that when there's less in the bottle, when the bottle's close to being empty, I do get more bubbles, I guess because of the air from not having a lot of product left. But for the most part, I don't really have a lot of problem with bubbles. So you just spread it evenly, smoothly. Make sure you get down into those indentations of the shell. And when I feel like it's all spread, now the one thing is, if you've got a very cupped shell, you know, the resin will pool where the cup is. So just spread it. And then I check for bubbles. I don't really see any, but if you get tiny bubbles, I've heard some people taking their heat gun to the shell, to the item that you resined, and heating it up. I just take a lighter. I usually have one of those long torch lighters, but I didn't. It's out of fluid. So I just take it and I just lightly skim the top, and that will pop all your bubbles. And from what I see, there is no bubbles at all. So now I'm going to set my light. I like to do 3 minutes. And I'm going to set my shell right under there for 3 minutes. I only do 1 coat of resin. You can do 2. Sometimes if I find that I didn't get all the bubbles out, or I have a little spot that really didn't get the resin, I will do a 2nd coat, thin coat, and it seems to help it. And that is pretty much it. So after this cures for 3 minutes, if I take it out and it's still tacky, I will put it back under the light for another minute or so. Here in Florida, we have a lot of humidity. Sometimes it takes a little longer. It also depends on how much resin, how thick you lay it. You don't need a lot of resin. A small goes a long way, you know, a small amount goes a long way. But if I feel like I need to put it back under the light for a little bit, I will. Some people put their work out in the sunlight. Right now, we've been having some cool weather and it's raining and not a whole lot of sun. And we never know when it's going to rain, so I don't usually put my stuff outside. But I just use the light. I have a couple of them, and I'll do a few pieces at one time. And this is pretty much the process. After this, I will then gild the edges with gold or silver. Like I said, you can either use, I use this particular brand, but you can use a gold leaf paint. This is the Folk Art Treasure Gold, and I've been using this Deco Art Metallic Silver. But since I've gotten these chrome pens, I really, really like them. So I'm going to gild this one with the gold. This one's a 3-pack. It comes with gold, silver, and like a copper, which looks like an antique gold. It's a pretty cool color. Yeah, so that's really my process. It's simple, it's easy. You just need to practice, take your time. The hardest part is waiting for stuff to dry, but it's important to let the stuff dry. That's why investing in maybe a heat gun is something that would be beneficial. If I know I'm going to do a bunch of shells, I will go through the process of painting them all, letting the coat dry, painting the second coat, then I pick out my images, and I go from there. So that's pretty much it. Again, time and patience. I actually haven't been doing this long, but I do a lot of research. I watch a lot of videos, and yeah, I learn as much as I can. So this is actually dry already. So here's the finished shell. So now the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna now go along the edges. Good thing about that, you can wipe it off a little bit when you first put it on if you've gone too much. You can make this around the edges as thick as you want, as thin as you want. I like to sometimes, just depending, I like to do this part of the shell. And I do this after. I used to do it before the resin, but I found that it lost a little bit of its shine, and these chrome markers are the bomb. They are so good. The color's great. They take a little bit to dry, so you just set it off to the side. But this is what I do. Like I said, there are people that do things differently. There really is no right or wrong way. Maybe just some tips along the way of people that have tried different things, and what one person likes might not work for somebody else. But again, this is just my way, and it's been working for me. So there is the finished shell. It's very shiny, sparkly. So yeah, so that is my process. I hope I answered some questions, helped you out. If you need any other assistance, I'd be more than happy to answer questions. Just private message me on Facebook, and just take your time, have patience, and you'll get it. Thanks for watching. Bye.